Welcome to the Legit Football NFL podcast. Brian McFadden here, co-founder of Legit Football. We are live on YouTube. It is Friday, March 17th, 2023. It's St. Patrick's Day. If you're watching this live, you'll see that Anthony went above and beyond as he tends to do, our producer, with a nice green theme going on. I wore the only green thing I could wear that would not disrupt with my green screen behind me. But it's a happy time to be a Dolphins fan. It's a happy time to be Irish. It's a happy time to be an NFL fan. My partner in crime, Phillip Fox, holding down the fort on Monday as I had a wedding to go to. And I know that I did share my thoughts. Man, how's it going?
My dude, we missed you, but let me tell you, your video was a big hit. Had a blast seeing you drip down in the Miami sun. He was fresh. He was swaggy. The fans finally got to see that side of you.
It was Palm Beach, in fairness, and it was outside of a Cracker Barrel. But you know,
hey, that's the best place to be fresh, man. That is the best place to be fresh.
We were about to have breakfast, and I'm like, you know what? I said to you guys that I wanted to share my thoughts on Jalen Ramsey to the Dolphins. Jalen Ramsey to the Dolphins,
crazy, insane.
So I'm like, why am I going to write it? Let me just put it up in video. And so I'm glad that you guys got to play that on the show. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Armand, in the chat. This is a very good show for you as a Jets fan.
Let's go.
We are going to be talking Aaron Rodgers for our main topic. How about, Kevin, who gets the pot of gold, Packers or Jets?
I love it, man. I mean, it doesn't get more topical than that. It really doesn't.
So we know you're going to represent the Jets, being from the AFC East. But I'm not going to represent the Packers. Let's get a Packers fan on here. Let's go back to across the 20 ponds, all the way into tomorrow. Adrian Revito from Australia back on the show.
What's going on, boys? How are we?
What's up, dog?
We did mention in the pre-show that I didn't think about daylight savings and how it is not quite daylight savings in Australia. So not only is it not 5 a.m. for you on Saturday, it's actually 4 a.m. Thank you.
Super.
Hey, thanks for having me on, boys. I didn't realize the time difference, and I should have. That's my fault as well. And it was a quick to rise wake up. But I'm here. I'm alive.
Hey, I'm a big believer that we're our most authentic selves when we first just wake up. So we're gonna catch the real, true, authentic Adrian. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Are you saying he was fake last time and it was all just an act? It's like, no.
Fraudulent. No, I'm just kidding.
If that's true, I'm so authentic today. I'm about 4 minutes from authentic.
Let's go.
Let's do it. So, yeah, got a great show for you lined up. We'll have a little bit of a St. Patty Day theme with our main topic. But let's go ahead and start with the legit headlines, top headlines from the Legit Football newsletter throughout the week. This is one of those weeks, guys, where there's so many headlines. Like, to only pick like 5 or 6 for this show. This is one of the few editions of Legit Football where we actually change up the format. On Monday, there was not top 6 stories. We literally ran through all of the major signings in just a more truncated format. But we can't do that on the show, so we're going to pick some headlines. We were going to start in Tampa Bay, where the Bucs have their quarterback, maybe. They at least have somebody to compete. Buccaneers signed quarterback Baker Mayfield, former Ram, former Panther, former Cleveland Brown, former #1 overall pick. Deal is for 1 year and has a base value of $4 million, so definitely a cheap prove-it deal. Mayfield can make up to $8.5 million if he hits certain incentives. 7 games last year with Carolina, Kevin completed 57.8% of his passes for 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Released after Week 13, claimed by the Rams in 5 games with LA. 63.6% completion, 850 yards, 4 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, and most importantly, on like 48 hours turnaround, ended up beating the Raiders on Thursday Night Football. Kevin, how do you feel about this signing, bringing Baker in to compete with Kyle Trask in Tampa Bay?
It's giving Tobias Funke on Arrested Development, where he says, somehow everybody else deludes themselves into thinking there's a chance it could work, but they're wrong. But for us, it just might. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The other 31 teams, they're wrong. They don't know what to do with Baker, but us, oh, of course we do.
It feels very much, like, look, I don't want to jump on him. I think Baker Mayfield had a lot of potential. I don't know where it went wrong in Cleveland. But when the wheels fell off, it seemed like they really fell off. It seemed like it was kind of just, he wasn't the same player. Yes. Thank you, Anthony.
Oh, great. Love it.
And now we're kind of looking for, something to grasp onto as far as like some sort of a career trajectory for him. And I guess this is as good of a landing spot for him as he could find. And as far as Tampa goes, I think this kind of signifies that there wasn't really much in terms of like a legit bona fide starter for them in free agency. If they believe in him and they're taking the leap, and Armand mentioned Mike Evans in the chat. That's a great call. Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield have that great rapport. Or wait, no, different schools, right? Or no, Baker went to Oklahoma.
No.
No.
Yeah, that's A&M.
Yeah, so that's not.
They could have a good rapport. We'll don't
see.
know. Maybe it's magical.
But I do think Mike Evans is probably the best receiver Baker's played with in a while. But we'll see. I mean, I don't have a ton of faith. What do you guys think?
When it comes to Baker, I'm a sucker for an underdog. So when he got traded away, I didn't like how they did him in Cleveland. I wanted him to do well. You're right. He's in a good spot. They got a new offensive coordinator who was kind of credited with the revival of Geno Smith. We all know how that went. So look, it's a good deal for $1. It's pretty cheap. Whether he backs up or starts, $4 million is not going to cost you a great deal. I know it's sort of loaded with incentives. So I think it's probably a good deal both ways. I'm quietly hoping he does well, but I mean, I'm not going to be super surprised. Or I guess what I'm saying, right, is when I turn on for the first time and I see his passes getting battered down, or he doesn't see an open receiver, like I'm ready to be hurt again, boys. You know what I mean? I want him to do well, but I'm ready for him not to.
I like the Baker story. I kind of always have. I know that he's a polarizing figure. First of all, he's great on the commercials. Can we all just agree on that?
Could be a good actor.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just liked he's got a swagger, and sometimes he tries to play hero ball, but I loved what he did in that game where LA, where he flew. He like barely had the playbook, went out there and essentially played the whole game. I think there was like the first drive he wasn't in, and played fairly decent. Like I was like, okay, Baker. And then not only that, ended up winning the game, scoring 2 touchdowns in like the final.
My favorite
minute and a half.
NFL stories. I love stuff like that.
One of the best moments of the entire season. So I just love. I want to see him succeed. You can't argue with this from the Bucs. I love the price that they paid. It's small enough, obviously, and it's only 1 year. If it doesn't work out, no skin off their backs. They're in a very weak division, so it's not out of the question that they could repeat as division champs. Because they won that weak division, they're not in position to draft a quarterback this year. If it goes up in flames, then they could have a top 5 pick next year and be in position to draft Drake May or Caleb Williams. So you really can't argue with it. Maybe Kyle Trask is a magical guy sitting on the, he's got his lucky 4-leaf clover. We're trying to bring in the St. Patty's Day theme when we can. But who knows? But let's talk a little bit about, I do want to address the future for Tampa Bay. Mike Evans, Armand mentioned in the chat, the Bucs are hopeful that offensive coordinator Dave Canales, who was the quarterbacks coach for Geno Smith in Seattle, right? So he just revived this kind of like, even more than Baker, this guy who for 10 years, everybody's like, Geno was almost a butt of a joke. I mean, he had a great career as a backup, but he's Geno Smith. He, got punched in the face in New York, and just all of these stories. And then now he actually becomes comeback player of the year and leads the Seahawks on the, to the playoff. It's just crazy. So they're trying to recapture some of that magic. But what goes beyond that, right? So Evans, as Armand mentioned in the chat, going into his final year of his contract, do they trade him now, during the draft, or at the deadline during the season? So Armand seems to think that Evans is gone. Kevin, do you have what should Tampa Bay do with Mike Evans now?
If I'm Tampa, so you mentioned Kyle Trask. I do think if Kyle Trask is special, then this signing will look like a lot better of a signing because they didn't commit big money or long-term assets to a quarterback. So that's a good point. As far as Mike Evans goes, if I'm the GM, I am looking probably pre-draft or midday draft. Like if I could hold on to Mike Evans, if he's playing the hold 'em fold 'em game because the wide receiver market is so dry, then that's a genius move. And Mike Evans' value could increase the more the receiver market dries up. I mean, you weren't ever going to get a Mike Evans level player from free agency this year. Pretty much only available via trade. And the big dominoes in the receiver trade market haven't fallen. So, not a bad call to hold him when it comes to Mike Evans until at least the draft. And then at that point, if you're really sure you're not going to have him on your team this year, which I don't hate that for them. I don't hate moving on from him. This could be you mentioned it, Brian. This could be a top 5 draft pick type season, which, you already moved on from playoff Lenny. I don't hate burning it down. And, you do have Chris Godwin, and maybe he's one of the few pieces that holds over to the new regime. But yeah, I really don't hate burning it down at all. And I think Evans draft day or pre-draft to get some capital to move up a little bit is not a bad call.
So I wonder, Todd Bowles doesn't have a good track record as a head coach. Great track record as a defensive coordinator. I'm not sure they want to trade Evans. This is a talented team. This team is not all that different. I mean, Brady's a pretty big gap there, but it's not all that different from a team that won the Super Bowl just a few years ago. Would Bowles want to tear it down? Does he have that kind of job security? If you think about, they brought back Levante David. They actually re-signed Jamel Dean. A lot of people thought he was gone. So you've still got some pieces on that defense. You mentioned they still have Chris Godwin. They still have Mike Evans. Russell Gage is a nice number 3.
Yeah.
Rashad White. They just released Leonard Fournette.
He looks good.
And Cameron Brate, but those aren't huge knocks. You bring in Baker Mayfield in a weak NFC South, and you could win the division again. So what benefit right now if you're Todd Bowles, not that he makes a decision, to trading a Mike Evans, Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, so you're saying that Baker Mayfield is not as good as Tom Brady? No.
Newsflash.
Yeah, I think I kind of think like what Kevin said. I think it depends what you think of Kyle Trask. If you think you got something special, why would you tear it down to the ground? I'm with you on that. If you kind of, I don't like tanking, but like the word tanking. But if you're tanking for next year and hoping to get a better draft pick, I know that there's already talk about the 2024 class being a lot better for QBs. Maybe there's something to it. Get what you can now. And I'm not sure their cap situation or what is in it, but then there's also that as well. So there's a couple factors I'm sure they've got to think about. I don't like it though. I do hope they hold on to him. It's a good receiver, and it's just like, but I guess you're going to get. I'm talking out 2 sides of my mouth now because you're going to get good return this year because there's not much in the wide receiver world. So
That's what I'm saying.
I guess there's the benefit of, your next best product is Jacoby Myers. So, I think there's benefit if they want to get what they can now. But I also think if you think Kyle Trask is special, you want to put as much around him to make sure that
That's true.
he realizes that potential.
Yeah. Give both of them a chance. Yeah.
Even if you don't know that he's special, you want to be able to analyze him properly, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You want him in a good situation.
Totally.
So you can say, so in other words, if you've got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Rashad White and Kyle Trask still sucks, it's like, okay, this guy, if he can't get it done with these receivers, they're not going to get it done at all. Armand mentions in the chat, Jeudy or Evans, who gets traded first? That's a great question to segue into our next legit
Ooh, hold
headline.
on really quick, though. I just wanted to throw this out there on the last
Ruined
thing.
my great segue.
I had to ruin the
transition.
segue. It was a perfect transition, but this point that I have to make is more perfect. Brian, you said twice weak NFC South. I don't think you could say that next year. Just want to throw that out there. I just think.
Okay. Well, no. Tell us why. Let's hear it.
I think New Orleans is going to take a step forward, and I think so is Carolina with a new quarterback. I really do. That's all I'll say.
Okay, but there's step forward when you're already really, really far behind. A step forward still means you're still fairly behind. I don't think Derek Carr was the missing piece. How much better is Derek Carr than Andy Dalton, really? And he's better, don't get me wrong, but we're not talking about Jimmy G versus Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's not that kind of a gap.
I think Derek Carr, Jamal Williams, the Saints, they're somehow finding all this money. It's always in the
They're going to
banana
lose
stand.
Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, probably. Right? We got but also, I mean, Carolina's going to have a first overall draft pick coming in too, and they just brought in Miles Sanders.
But that's a rookie. We don't know that any of these guys are slam dunks.
That's true.
CJ Stroud, sure, he's a great passer, but he doesn't have the mobility that a lot of these up and coming quarterbacks have if they go that route. Richardson's a project. Young is my size, so it's like there's questions about all these guys.
You're now discounting Lamar Jackson to the Falcons, which we've already confirmed is 100% guaranteed. So
was that my crystal ball said he's staying in Baltimore? I don't know what one of your crystal balls.
100%. No, I just feel like they were a layup last year, and I feel like it's Bucks are probably still going to be betting favorites, but I think the gap is smaller. That's all I'll say.
Okay, I do agree there. I'll agree with that, but I don't know that it's not a tough division by any stretch
Yeah.
of the imagination.
No.
You would need, because I don't believe in Dennis Allen as a head coach with the Saints. I think we've seen that. And once again, another guy like Todd Bowles, who this is not his first head coaching gig.
He hasn't
coached
proven
for
it.
the Raiders previously and has just. Some guys are great coordinators and awful head coaches.
Yeah.
Carolina intrigues me. I'll agree. Frank Reich. I like the staff that they're building. They did just trade away DJ Moore,
That's
so
true.
even if you get a guy coming in.
But Miles Sanders is a dog. He had a great season in Philly on limited opportunities.
He's good, but a running back doesn't move the needle much on your team unless it's a Saquon, unless it's Zeke in his prime, unless it's Bijan Robinson from everything we're seeing coming out. Those are not the guys who turn your team from crappy to contender,
That's
right?
fair.
So
No.
you need a quarterback. You need wide receiver talent to step up, whether it's Laviska Shenault finally taking the jump everybody thought he's been about to take for 4 years.
Hayden Hurst.
Okay, but Hayden Hurst, once again, better than they had at tight end, but this is not a guy that's going to make or break the success of your team.
Yeah, I don't think I personally would say the Saints are more of a threat in my opinion than the Panthers, but that's,
right
I'm a
now
Derek Carr guy.
that's yeah.
I've been the resident
There's a lot
Derek
of
Carr
question
truther.
marks. There's a lot of question marks on the Panthers, so I will agree with you there.
Yeah.
And by the way, Adrian, I know Kevin and I are arguing, but feel free to come in if you've got
please,
conflicting
actually,
points. Don't wait
Adrian,
for us. Yeah.
Please validate me.
I'm sorry.
validate
Kevin,
me.
You,
Look
you
at him.
don't want my opinion here. No,
Oh, I do. I very much do. Oh,
No,
Kevin
you
doesn't
do.
want your opinion. Then even more
That's what
so,
I'm
I
saying.
want to hear it.
No, I think you said it perfectly, right? A step forward. If they're standing so far outside the room, they might be at the door now, but they're not in there yet. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think
and
they got the
that's-
keyhole and they're like looking through.
Yeah.
And
I'm a little higher on Derek Carr, though. I have to admit. I think he's an upgrade for him, and we'll see what happens, of course. But I still think it's a weak division. I mean, what's worse? My point exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the AFC South with the way that's going. I mean,
True.
the Jaguars are just going to steamroll everybody in that division.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
a weak division.
Basically,
but
the Souths. The
that it's-
AFC and NFC South is
I
just
think it's
like
just less weak than it was.
Okay,
I still
that's-
think it's weak.
Yeah, but that's like saying, okay, I went from benching 50 pounds to benching 55. I'm less weak now.
It's true.
Congrats.
But I don't know, because does Baker Mayfield really make the Bucs not weak?
I'm not.
You know what I mean?
Right, but I think the team is. We have seen Baker play well enough with a good surrounding cast. He did not have that cast in LA. Certainly did not have that cast in Carolina.
They have the best
He had
pieces, for sure.
the Browns on the brink of the AFC Championship. People have forgotten that already. They nearly beat the Chiefs, right? So, and they crushed the Steelers in that playoff game a couple years ago. And he was number one overall pick for a reason. So I'm not saying
Definitely.
What did we say? Newsflash: Brady is better. Obviously, it's a step down,
Right.
but he's got weapons around him. Tristan Wirfs is still there. Armand mentioned him. He got injured. They're going to move him, it looks like, maybe to left tackle. Ryan Jensen came back. You've got some pieces on defense. I don't know. I would still put the Bucs as the front runner. Saints closing the gap. Falcons and Panthers is spicy, but this is still a pretty lowly division.
Yeah.
See, I forgot it that he took them, like how close he got them. I really hope Baker Mayfield does well. It's hope season for Baker Mayfield fans, I'm telling you, and I really hope he does well. But
I'm in on the Baker thing. I want to see him succeed because I want to see him on TV more in the commercials, if no other reason. All right, let's get back to the second attempt at this transition, although I love that discussion, Kevin, so you're welcome to interrupt any segue I make as long as it's a good chat that comes afterwards. Armand said, Jeudy or Evans, who gets traded first? And the reason this is a good transition is our next legit headline is talking about two wide receivers, one a free agent, one currently a member of the Denver Broncos. So let's start with Odell. 3 teams in on Odell Beckham Jr., according to the scores Jordan Schultz. The Cowboys, Chiefs, and Ravens. Those are interesting, especially the first two, are showing interest in Beckham. Beckham seeking a multi-year deal worth 15 to 20 million annually. Cowboys have had discussions with Beckham. Adrian, I'll kick this one off with you. But don't seem to want to pay more than 13 mil per season. Kansas City seeking a replacement for Juju. That would be, I don't care if Odell didn't play last year. That's a giant upgrade from Juju Smith-Schuster.
I agree.
And then, so thoughts, Adrian, and then we'll talk about Jerry Jeudy.
yeah, so I think Cowboys make sense to me. We know Jerry Jones loves him. I'm not that high on Odell. I'm going to say it. Like, I mean, how much of him is just a brand name still? You know, I still associate that same one-handed catch that so many people have done since with Odell Beckham, and
Nothing has done more for his branding than that
yeah,
one-handed
oh,
catch
totally.
against Dallas, by the way.
Legendary.
But over 30, come back from an ACL. How much of him
This
is
is
just
second
his brand?
ACL too.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so what version of Odell are you going to get back? He looked, I was watching the workout videos where FYI, bringing up his catching ability, how's those catches he does during workouts where he sort of arm goes over the top of the wall? Anyway, I digress. I think
Stick him.
I think he's an upgrade for. I think he's an upgrade absolutely for the Chiefs, and he probably makes a bit more sense here because you've just got sorry about that.
Who's calling you at 4:30 in the morning?
No,
That's
is that your alarm?
That's my alarm to get up.
Hey, wake up! You've got a new legit football NFL podcast.
So I think you put him with Mahomes, and of course he'll make magic just like he did with the cavalcade of middling receivers that he had last year and won the Super Bowl. But I think if I'm putting him somewhere as the Cowboys, just because Jerry Jones loves him. Jerry Jones normally goes on and gets his guy where he can. He kept Zeke on the roster for how many years just because he liked the name brand. So yeah.
Not anymore though. Zeke is gone.
Crazy.
No, that time.
Crazy. I think of those three teams, I like the Cowboys the best as a landing spot, just because I think they will be the team that will overpay him and meet those needs that Odell has, both financially.
Why would the Chiefs overpay him? They just won the Super Bowl with Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So,
and I like what you said, Brian, about the upgrade thing. I do think Odell, even 31 years old on two torn ACLs, I think he's an upgrade over what the Chiefs had at receiver last year. But yeah, I feel like that's not really necessarily a good fit from a culture standpoint. I don't really think Odell is that much of a buy-in team player from what I've gathered. And I think Dallas will meet those needs a lot better. And the Ravens, that's a contender. I mean, if they can sew up Lamar and still have the money to go get Odell, 15 to 20 million, by the way, is disgusting to me. That makes me physically ill.
Well, if they're bringing back Lamar, do they really also want to spend 15 to 20 million a year on a receiver who maybe can give them 1 to 2 seasons?
Yeah, it's a big question.
Because that's the whole point in bringing back Lamar is you'd have to pay him a lot of money. So that's something to consider. Greg on our show said that he was going to the Cowboys. I said he was going to the Cowboys. Greg said that Ramsey was going to the Cowboys. We thought that was true, and it wasn't. So Greg's crystal ball clearly wasn't working.
Wow.
But I just think Dallas makes so much sense. Don't you just see OBJ with the star
100%.
On the side of his helmet?
All those superstars.
Let's talk Jerry Jeudy, though. So Jerry Jeudy, according to Benjamin Albright, who works for KOA Colorado, very well-known beat reporter for the Denver Broncos, says the Patriots, Browns, and also the Cowboys have inquired about trading for Jeudy. Albright is reporting that the Broncos are asking for a first-round pick or a high second-rounder plus a player. Kevin, would OBJ or would Dallas rather save a little bit of money, get a younger receiver in Jeudy?
100%. I think that's a better move. I think Jeudy would be the package I'd be in on. Personally, I would be more invested in trying to land Jerry Jeudy. I don't know how absurd the compensation is going to be. I think there's a very generally well-known consensus that Jeudy has not lived up to his expectations in Denver, and I think there's more to uncover with him. Everybody coming out of the draft, he was like the number one receiver in that class, and his talent just jumped off the screen, and it really hasn't materialized almost at all in Denver. I mean, he's had some moments, but I just don't really see Jerry Jeudy. I definitely don't see him staying in Denver. And of those teams, it would terrify me if he went to the Patriots. I would really rather not see him go to the Patriots, honestly, especially since they got Juju. I mean, Juju's a nice big slot. I mean, he's nothing to write home about, in my opinion, as far as a superstar, but he moves the needle for sure. So
not when you get rid of Jacoby Myers, though. I think that's a net.
Oh, isn't that
zero?
Oh,
yeah, net zero.
Net zero.
Sure.
I think I would say it's a net loss personally, but that's. I'm a Jacoby guy. I've been saying that for weeks on this show, but yeah, I would hate to see Jeudy go to the Patriots. I would absolutely hate it.
Don't we hate anybody who goes to the Patriots?
Pretty much.
Mike Gesicki, by the way. Mike Gesicki's going to the Patriots. I was
that.
like,
So much for my
that's
crystal
sad.
ball last
RIP.
time.
Oh, where'd you have Gesicki going?
With my beloved Packers.
I think
Man.
all of our crystal balls were broken at this point. If Lamar goes back to Baltimore and the Tannehill goes to the Falcons, I think mine might actually be fairly well constructed. But Adrian, let's talk about the Denver side of it. Should the Broncos want to trade away a guy like Jeudy? You got Sean Payton coming in. They're paying Russ a lot of money, but it wouldn't surprise me if Sean Payton finds a way to get out of that contract if Russ sucks again this year. What should they do? What should the Broncos do? Or should they try to keep a guy like Jeudy?
I think a guy like I'm pretty high on Jerry Jeudy. I think you should try and keep him. But I also appreciate that moves have to be made. I think we, like as you said, Sean Payton coming in. It's Sean Payton's team now. It's not, the team is not pending what Russell Wilson does. If he's bad, he's gone, and if he's good, he stays. But it's Sean Payton's decision. So I think I'm always going to say keep talent building. Wide receivers are so their value to a game or their value to a team can't be understated. But I mean, it also depends on what he's like in the locker room. I know that I was seeing some rumors about he wants his way out and all that sort of thing. So, I don't know how I feel about burning it to the ground though and getting rid of Cortland Sutton as well. So it kind of depends what else happens. If they just lose Jeudy and they replace him, then they replace him with someone else. That's fine. If they lose Sutton and Julie, Sutton and Jeudy.
It's all right. It's like 4:30 where you are. We'll allow some flubs.
Cut me some slack, guys. So, yeah, I from the Broncos side of it, I don't like it. To answer your question, I don't think you should be getting rid of him. But as often happens, there's more going on behind the scenes. And if they're reporting that the Broncos want to first, that could just be the Broncos camp trying to test the market to see what's out there. You don't know what you're going to get for him, but I think he's worth it.
I think similar to the Trask thing, Sean Payton needs to know, is Russ, a bust at this point or not?
Yeah.
Has he fallen off a cliff out of nowhere? And they've made some big moves along the offensive line, signing Mike McGlinchey. They also signed a guard. I think it was Ben Powers went there from the Ravens. You're a Super Bowl winning coach. Why would you not want to keep all your pieces there to truly evaluate whether that gargantuan contract and all those draft picks you sent for Russell Wilson is worth keeping him, or do you need to pursue quarterback? So I'm with Adrian here. Unless you get an insane offer, like 2 first-round picks for Jeudy or something like that, or a first and a second, if I'm the Broncos, I would want to keep Jeudy and Sutton on my team to really see what I have and determine after 2023 if it's worth continuing with Broncos country. Let's ride.
Can I throw something out? Can I digress for 1 second? Broncos
Always.
8.5 wins, over or under next year? What do you guys think? Under?
Yeah, I'm under.
That's such a tough conference. I'm going to go over. I like Sean Payton. I just feel like he was going to whip Russ into shape. I don't think that Russ at age, 32, 33, there's no way he's washed. We've seen him play at MVP caliber levels in multiple seasons, 2 Super Bowls, 1 that he won. How could he just suck all of a sudden? I think the Nathaniel Hackett experiment didn't work. Sean Payton's going to come in there, crack the whip. They had a lot of talent. They had a top 5 defense for a lot of the season last year. If Sutton can return to 2019 form, I don't know. I could see 9-8, so I'm going to go over.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Yeah, Adrian, go ahead. No, sorry. You got to give us your win-loss.
I'm so torn whether it's going to be 8-9 or 9-8, which is why I asked the question. I'm probably going to hit the under.
Yeah. Well, I think the Raiders are going to be in last in that division too, so I'm trying to factor that kind of thing in. I don't even know what division they play, but there's definitely wins to be had in the AFC South. Patriots, luckily, I think they're going to be easily projected to finish last. So I think between that and stealing a few division wins here and there, they can get to 9 wins.
Yeah, and Brian, just really quick to your point, you talked about, a big theme of today's show. I love when themes just emerge naturally. We didn't plan this, I swear. But a big theme of today's show is allowing your guy the chance to show us what they are with the right ingredients in the cupboard. I absolutely love that ideology because we saw Josh Allen take the gargantuan leap. We saw Jalen Hurts take the gargantuan leap. It's a real thing.
Tua, get Tyreek Hill in there, and a new offensive coordinator.
Absolutely. So the only red flag I have about Denver's ingredients is you're talking about Sutton and Jeudy like we went to Whole Foods last night, but that might be like some Smart and Final 2 weeks ago. I don't know if it's still, I don't know if it's expired. I have to smell it if I'm really sure that I'm going to throw this in my cake. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just going to say,
what are you? What you're building a cake? I did not see a cake as part as the end result of those
we're
ingredients.
rolling with it. We're rolling with it. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe you like cake. Maybe you just like.
I
Can
love
I go to
cake.
Whole Foods or Smart and Final?
Yeah.
I really just want to build a random cake here.
we're making a pasta dish. We're making a pasta dish that, and then the cake is the dessert. But you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
I don't know.
You
if
made it seem
Sutton
like
and
it was the
Jeudy-
main dish. So
I don't know if they're the freshest ingredients anymore, Brian.
Okay, there
you
you
know
go.
what I'm saying? What do you think? What do you guys are they? I mean, is Denver is the best ingredients that they can present on the level of fresh Whole Foods, or are we looking at Smart and Final 3 weeks ago?
Well, we saw Jeudy flash. He had one game with 3 touchdowns last year. I think it was against the Chiefs. So I still think he has that ability. Sutton's big year was only a few years ago, where he just was lighting it up. Everybody thought he was the next.
2019 is almost, that's like 4 years ago.
That's
It's crazy because
but he doesn't have to be the number one. He can, if Jeudy really does with in a Sean Payton offense. If Jeudy is the Michael Thomas and he just lights it up, then Courtland Sutton can be that nice complement number 2. So, I mean, you got who's the tight end? Greg Dulcich showed a lot of promise last
I'd love
year.
to see him take a step forward. Yeah,
you have the same thing. You're evaluating the receivers on the other end of it. Sean Payton. That's the thing. This is not a coach who's been there 3 years. This is his first year here.
Yeah.
First team coaching head coach besides the Saints. If I'm him, I'm going to want to evaluate everything, and I want to evaluate everything with all the pieces in place so that I can determine what cake ingredients need to be exchanged. How about that?
I have noticed that when
we make it a green cake for St. Patty's Day?
it's a green cake
right,
with like little gold shavings on the top.
Pistachio, maybe that's the green that comes
love
in,
some
yeah.
pistachio.
Nice.
I think I've noticed this trend as well with new coaches. It's like the first year, you're right, Brian, they do kind of have to give it an earnest attempt with the ingredients they're presented. And then it's let's get our guys in here off season. The first off season, if it doesn't work out, but they do have to give it an earnest attempt with what they have. So yeah, you're probably right. I think Peyton is gonna give it his all with what he has before he decides to burn it down, before he decides to make the last minute Whole Foods run.
And it's, I mean, Peyton has like the benefit of it's like it's his first year, but he's not like most first year coaches. He's got a long leash, right? So he can afford to take that year and sort of assess the situation, assess their ingredients. Yeah. And if he makes a bad cake 1 year, there's always next year.
Yeah, he'll still be brought back for the banquet next year for sure.
Totally.
We are really taking this cake analogy and just run with it as far as we can.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. I kind of want a piece of cake now.
Me too, dude.
So as we lead up to our main topic, here's what we're going to do, because there's just a crap ton of signings. I'm going to go through some signings, a little bit of rapid fire. I'm going to alternate between you, Kevin, and you, Adrian, and just give me quick thoughts. So we'll start with you, Kevin. Bears signed running back Dante Foreman to a 1-year deal worth only $3 million. Foreman rushed for 914 yards, 4.5 per carry, and 5 touchdowns with the Panthers last season after they traded away Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think it's great for the player to continue to get paid. He was one of the Achilles question marks. Will he or won't he ever be productive in the NFL again? It's great to see that he is. I really hope they pair him with another runner. I really don't want to see Deontay Foreman in a 3-down role, just given his health
I think
history.
Khalil Herbert is going to be the lead
Is
back
he still
in
under
that.
contract?
Yes, he is.
Okay?
Yeah,
Thank God.
And they brought on Travis Homer, so I mean they've got a nice 3-way.
That's a nice little 3-pack. Yeah, I absolutely Then I'm even more of a fan of the signing, knowing that Khalil Herbert is still there. I think Khalil Herbert could be very, very sneaky in fantasy football this year. That's a little, but yeah, Foreman's a nice change of pace back. He'll be a good first and second down when they don't want to put the wear and tear on Fields' legs. They're up late in the game. I like that signing a lot.
Adrian, Chicago Bears also signed former Packer tight end Robert Tonyan. 1-year contract. He caught 53 of 67 targets, 79.1% catch rate for 470 yards and 2 touchdowns with the Packers last season.
That's my boy, but I don't look. I'm not sad to. I'll be honest. I'm not sad to see him leave. He seems like a good locker room guy. He couldn't stay healthy. He had that kind of one big breakout year.
Yep.
But look, especially with such a good tight end class coming, I didn't want to see the Packers re-sign him. Love you, Big Bob, but I'm happy. Although, look, it seems like a thing, like we lose a lot of players to the NFC North, and that's what pains me. Darius Smith went to the Vikings
Right.
last year. I don't want to see him do well in the NFC North. I would wish him all the best if he was anywhere else.
There you go.
At least Lazard went to the Jets. There you go. So,
Yeah.
There you go. He's out of the conference.
We're gonna
I have to
talk
be a
about
sneaky
that.
Jets fan this year as well. But anyway,
Definitely.
Real quick, let's just mention Chicago. We don't have to make it a big talking point yet because we'll have plenty of time to analyze. In fact, our main topic on Monday is going to be winners and losers from each division in free agency. But I just want to recap a little bit of what Chicago's done really just in the last week. Added wide receiver DJ Moore, linebacker Tremaine Edmonds. Sorry, Kevin. Linebacker TJ Edwards who was one of the top-rated linebackers in PFF from Philadelphia. Offensive guard Nate Davis. Defensive end DeMarcus Walker. Quarterback PJ Walker. They're just adding a whole bunch of Panthers, by the way. Defensive tackle Andrew Billings. Foreman, as we mentioned, in Tunyon. And, by the way, they got a whole lot more by trading out a number one, including 2 first-round picks and 2 seconds. I don't want to comment on that. Just wanted to refresh it. Let's go through a few more signings. Miles Sanders signed with the Panthers. Panthers signed Sanders to a 4-year contract, only 25 years old, rushed for 1,269 yards and 11 touchdowns, his best season so far as a pro. With the Eagles, 5.1 yards per carry, which ranked 3rd in the NFL with a minimum of 250 carries.
Yeah, look, love Miles Sanders, though I do question how much of that production was because of it. Like, they have an offensive line that you're not going to find in the Panthers. They had the threat of Jalen Hurts running, so that kind of gives you that extra level. So I hope he does well. I like Miles Sanders, and I think he's a good pickup, but I worry about his regression now because I don't think he's going to perform at that level that he did with the Eagles.
He really hasn't had that. See, like, everybody's like, oh, he could be another, not quite Saquon, but he backed up Saquon in Penn State, and people are like, sometimes he does some things better. He's always just been like, okay, which, honestly for an NFL running back is fine, but we mentioned earlier, unless it's like one of those top shelf guys, Christian McCaffrey, it just doesn't really move the needle on a team. So, I mean, I don't hate the signing. If he's your lead back in Carolina with a rookie quarterback and other pieces, yeah, can't hate that.
Yeah, I think Philly had such a stacks covered at the running back position. Jalen Hurts is a great runner. You're right, he was behind Saquon. I think this is the first time we're going to see sink or swim for Miles Sanders on his own, which I'm looking forward to. I'm betting on him. He's on my dynasty team. I've always been a fan of his talent. I've always kind of felt like he didn't have the opportunity to really be like a true elite running back. We'll see if he's got it. This is the year, and if he does, the ceiling is massive. I hope he finds it.
One interesting note is that the Eagles have said, I don't remember if it was Sirianni or I think it was Sirianni, that they used a committee approach essentially, but that's actually not what they prefer. And to me, that's a little bit of a knock on Sanders.
That's interesting.
They've said that if they had a stud running back, they would ride a stud running back. So once again, Kevin, I like what you said. He's going to get his chance to prove in Carolina.
Yeah,
Let's stay with the Panthers. You mentioned it earlier, Kevin. Tight end Hayden Hurst signed with Carolina, 3-year contract. 29-year-old caught 52 passes for 414 yards and 2 touchdowns with the Bengals last season.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst is definitely one of those tight ends that gets by almost just by like being, like you said about Sanders, just okay. Like, he's not an elite tight end by any stretch, but that dude is tall and that dude has pretty secure hands and that dude gets open. And that's really, what else do you want from a pass catcher?
I love the analysis. Dude is tall.
Yes.
Dude catches balls. Dude gets open. Hashtag analysis.
Keep getting your bag, Hayden Hurst, because the league is better when there's more good tight ends, and he's about as above, like, he's truly above average, but he's not special, and he's not bad. So I'm happy that he is getting his bag.
I'm always monitoring the chat for interesting questions. Armand brought up something I do want to quickly pivot to. He asks, is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson asking for a lot of money? That's the safety who was drafted by the Saints, was traded to the Eagles, and was part of their Super Bowl run. Is he asking for a lot of money? I don't get why he's still on the market. I would love for the Jets to sign him. I did see on Twitter, and you never know what these guys really mean on Twitter, but his tweets seem to imply that he's insulted by what Philly has offered him so far. I'll just throw it up to both of you guys. Jump ball. Who has a Gardner-Johnson take here?
I think the being insulted by what Philly, if you look at what Philly had in terms of free agents this year, leading into this year, it was like the list was extremely long and extremely loaded. So, I trust Howie Roseman to sort of bring back some of those key pieces, which he absolutely has. But I don't know what Gardner Johnson's asking for a lot of money. It is weird that he's on the market still, though, because if you look at any list of free agents, like he was right up there.
I do want to be completely honest with you. I like Gardner Johnson a lot. He's a good player, but the safety market is just not what people thought it was going to be. The safety market is dry.
It's probably why Poyer went back, which is
that's what I was going to. It's a huge win for Buffalo. But the first day, I mean, you see Jesse Bates is really the only one who got a true bag. Jesse Bates got a bag in Atlanta. But Marcus Epps, Jordan Poyer, all these studs are getting. Poyer's deal is $6 million a year, and Armand put in the chat Julian Love 2-year deal $12 million with Seattle. That's $6 million a year. I mean, dude, that's the safety's turning into the running back of the defense.
For reference, Darius Slay, we mentioned Howie Roseman doing deals. They just signed an extension with Slay that was $42 million for a 2-year extension. So there's this $42 million. Versus
elite corner
12,
money.
Right? So I think this is just, you mentioned it earlier, Adrian, positional value. I think teams are really leaning into the analytics of how some positions are just so much more inherently important to success than others. Running back gets the other side of that. Tight end gets the other side of that. Corner, tackle gets the higher end of that. And, of course, quarterback, the ultimate one. All right, we're gonna still go down our free agent signings, but we are not gonna get it from one of you because we have Jamal Williams news, and for that we are gonna bring in our producer Anthony Weiner, come from behind the scenes, diehard Lions fan, Jamal Williams fan. We all thought he was gonna go back.
Hey,
dude gives himself intro music.
I had to give myself a walk-in song, so
I didn't even. I guess the intro to the show is my walk-in.
Nice.
Saints signed running back Jamal Williams to a 3-year, $12 million contract, which is less than Montgomery signed with the Lions, which is curious, just something to note. He's soon to be 28, rushed for 1,000 yards and 17 touchdowns last year, which, by the way, is a Lions record, not to mention what we saw from him on Hard Knocks and that interview after the Packers game. Like, this guy is literally the heart and soul of your team. New Orleans was not one of the teams that was rumored to be in the mix, yet they signed him with the Alvin Kamara news, the fact that he's probably going to be suspended. I love this for the Saints, but Anthony, how are you feeling as a Lions fan?
Yeah, I actually feel good about this, and I didn't think I would, but when I saw Detroit Lions sign David Montgomery, I had hope, and that's because in the overall scheme of things, David Montgomery is a better running back.
More well-rounded. Yeah, I'll give you that.
He brings the culture. He brings the vibe that everyone enjoys. But I can promise you, he is not the only Lion with dog in him. He is not the only Lion that wants to win. But he kind of just vocalized that. He kind of put it out there. He put the Lions on the map.
Wouldn't the Lions have cat in them? I mean,
go on.
Where's my rim shot? Come on,
come on,
just because you're in front of the screen.
I'm busy. No. So I like it. And I'm happy for Jamal. I think with the whole money thing, because everyone's like, you could have paid him less than David, but the thing is they were going to. And I heard from Lions insiders that there was a deal that was going to happen. It didn't happen. So New Orleans Saints beat them to it. Jamal said, all right, I could use a change of scenery. David Montgomery got signed. As soon as he got signed, I knew that was goodbye to Jamal. I knew that was like the nail in the coffin. And so I like this idea because now Jamal can go bring that energy to another team and leave the Lions with the talent that we have, with a back like David Montgomery who can break tackles. His speed is off the charts. Jamal Williams scored all of those touchdowns from the goal line. Not all of them, but most of them. And he couldn't do much midfield or even in the red zone. He had to be on the goal line, which that had a lot to do with the passing game with St. Brown. And I just think that getting rid of him is good for the run game. I think that Lions fans were a bit too reliant on him. We had one of the best rushing games or rushing teams of the season, but we also had one of the best passing. And so I think that upgrading that position and letting Jamal go is going to be an up, not a down. And I'm all for it.
Doesn't Jamal Williams strike you as like the ultimate Dan Campbell guy?
Exactly.
And so
That's what surprised me. Is not that he's a culture guy in general, but that he is specifically a Dan Campbell culture guy.
And secondly, I don't know what it is, but you watch Jamal Williams talk, and because I love him, he's a former Packer as well.
He's so funny.
And like it doesn't he just feel like your best mate? Like I
He's
just
so exactly.
Yeah, he has that.
Apparently, he's like just plays video games and watches anime for like that's his that's what he does in his free time. I'm like, who is this guy?
Dude, he is the leader of the Hidden Village of the Den. I don't know if you know that or not, but that's Jamal Williams.
I have no idea what you just mentioned.
He said it in his SNF intro. It's a Naruto reference.
Oh, okay. So that's an anime reference. So, I'll just trust your anime expertise on that, Kevin, I guess.
It's my Jamal Williams expertise. I had to look it up too.
I will say this, sneaky for fantasy, at least for redraft, Kamara is going to get suspended. Jamal Williams should be on your radar as the lead back in New Orleans with Derek Carr igniting that offense. So, Anthony, I'm glad that you feel in a good place with this Jamal Williams signing. Go back behind the scenes.
I do have one more thought.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I think Jamal Williams, especially after beating the record, he wanted that starting job. He wasn't going to have that in Detroit. So in New Orleans, he gets to start. He gets to really show who he is as a running back and show his skill. He wasn't going to do that. He was limited with carries because of DeAndre Swift and even Craig Reynolds, which they just re-signed. And I think that going to New Orleans is going to be good for his career.
I love it.
Great. No arguments there. Yeah, I love the signing.
I will say personally, I wanted him to be a Bill. I was sad when he didn't sign with Buffalo. But that being said, I think he's the perfect Mark Ingram when Kamara comes back. He will be a perfect complement to Thunder and Lightning.
Yep.
If Kamara comes back. If he doesn't, Jamal, I think Jamal can hold it down. I've seen things in Jamal in the last couple seasons that I didn't know that he had when he was in Green Bay. I think he's more than a change of pace back. And I think Anthony's right. Montgomery is a great player, and I think it'll be fun to watch him play in Detroit. I think that'll be I think he'll be a threat in fantasy too to Swift's value. I believe that.
I've got a giant list of free agent signings. Obviously, we're not going to go through all of these, but we are, as I mentioned, the main topic of Monday. We will do winners and losers from each division, so we'll hit a lot of these signings. So let's go ahead and jump into the main topic. It's St. Patrick's Day.
Ooh, that was a little scary.
No, I like it. It's 100% approved there. So Aaron Rodgers goes on the Pat McAfee show on Wednesday. Armand asked earlier if I watched, I think 45 minutes of the hour-long interview. I watched most of it. I certainly got all the juicy stuff, and announced that he intends to play for the Jets in 2023. So that's why I wanted to make the main topic, leaving a team with green in their colors, going to a team whose nickname is literally Gang Green. We're going to do, for St. Patrick's Day, who gets the pot of gold? The Packers or the Jets with the Aaron Rodgers deal? I know it's not official. I know he hasn't actually been traded, but it's gonna happen. I mean, how would it not happen at this point? Mm-hmm. We can talk about which team has leverage. I don't think either team has leverage, to be perfectly clear, because the Jets, they have no QB options unless they magically can get Lamar. The Packers don't have any other suitors for Rodgers, so either they need to get compensation. They can't bring him back at this point because they've clearly already decided on Love, and Packers said in no small words that he has no intention of playing for Green Bay, and he's actually pretty pissed at them right now. So we're going to assume the trade went through. We don't know the compensation, but Adrian, you're going to represent your Green Bay Packers and tell everybody why they get the pot of gold in this transaction. Kevin, I guess Anthony has made his thoughts clear. And Kevin, as our AFC East Bills fan, you're going to say why the New York Jets are getting the pot of gold here. But hey, before you guys get started, we had to hear from friend of the show, our resident New York Jets fan, Rich Jeudy, the Pro Football Demon. I tried to get him on, but his schedule was insanely busy, understandably. But I did send in his thoughts. Anthony, let's hear what Rich had to say about the Rodgers news.
But if Aaron Rodgers is traded to the Jets, I'm going to be impossible to live with. That begins right now. Here's the impossibility living with me. I want to know how it feels. Chiefs fans, hi. We have not had an opportunity to speak. This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. You don't scare us anymore. Bengals fans, yeah. It's going to be a rough year for you guys. It's going to be a rough 2 years. AFC East. I would not want to be an AFC East fan right now unless I was a Jets fan. Definitely not want to be a Miami Dolphins fan, Brian McFadden. No. Mike White is your
calling me
backup.
out.
He's as fragile as Tua. I have all the love in the world.
A little
for
drive-by.
I think he's got all the heart in the world. He's just fragile. He's fragile. Tua's fragile. You guys are going to know what it felt like to be us last year. Have a pretty good roster and no quarterback. The Bills, they're not getting any better. And I mean, Zach Wilson beat them last season. If Aaron Rodgers was a Jet last season, they would have won 13-plus games. Perhaps made a Super Bowl. Chiefs fans, let's go back to you. Do you think your I don't know what you want to call your receiving core. Do you think any of those guys are going to pose problems for Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed? Honestly, come on. Now,
Odell,
the Bengals,
maybe?
Yeah, they do have some nice receivers, but we're still talking about Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. So, you're also losing Joe Mixon. Oh, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. Oh, man. Aaron Rodgers. He's a perfect fit.
Rich is
New
feeling
York
himself.
is going to treat him like a king, and he's going to feed off that energy. He's going to get all the respect in the world that he deserves, that he's always wanted. He's going to get the love that he's always wanted from our fan base. The way he just butchered Adam Schefter, and the way he's butchering this media that just craps all over the Jets year after year after year. And they're
He's
still
hitting
doing
everybody
it now.
in this.
We've got some mortgage in the future, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but when the Rams went after Matthew Stafford, when the Rams gave up everything to chase a Super Bowl, they were brilliant. But the Jets are they're mortgaging their future. They haven't won a Super Bowl since 1969. So they're deciding to push all the chips in. There's talk about the trade compensation. By the time you guys
That
are
was
talking
another
about
quarterback
this,
who wore
maybe
number
it'll be ironed
12,
out. I don't
69.
know. But I'm pretty sure Joe Douglas is going to keep his firsts and still build the team. And what you have to remember is the core of this team is so young.
Is that the end of the video? What happened? There's a little bit of a lag there.
Those are some sniper shots heading out to all
Yeah,
of the AFC.
I
right
respect it. I respect the take, man.
Yeah.
I really do.
I think we got enough. We know exactly
Yeah.
how he feels.
Thank you,
wow.
Demon. As always, just a legend.
Nobody was safe. Maybe he sniped the Packers at the end of that, Adrian, and you got saved from that. But certainly me called out by name to his
I was gonna
fragile.
say.
Can't really argue with that. The Kevin's Bills called out.
Yeah.
They did lose to Zach Wilson, so
That's
now
fair,
they get to
yeah.
face Rodgers. And the Chiefs, man, the Chiefs in particular. So he's not just aiming for the NFC title. He's going for the Super Bowl champs. Thank you, Rich. The Pro Football
That was
Demon,
awesome.
as always, does not pull punches. So let's go ahead and get into it. Kevin, I will let you kick this off.
Oh.
I just
Thank you.
randomly did a coin flip in my head. No reasoning other than that.
I love it.
Adrian's still waking up. I want to give him a little more time to gather his thoughts here. So why do the New York Jets, and once again, we don't know compensation, so we can't tie into that, but why do the Jets win the pot of gold on St. Patrick's Day in 2023 for acquiring quarterback Aaron Rodgers?
I'm going to quote an actual genius. His name's Pro Football Demon.
I knew you were going to do that.
The Rams are geniuses when they go get Stafford and win a ring, but the Jets are bumbling idiots? No, that's not fair. It's a really silly narrative. It's super false. It's super not true. Aaron Rodgers absolutely makes the Jets instant Super Bowl contenders, and that is the name of the game in modern NFL football. Unfortunately, ring chasing has infiltrated all American sports, and it has become the biggest phenomenon in sports, and for a good reason. Everybody wants that glory. Everybody wants to hoist that
Why
championship.
else do we do it? At the end of the day, if you're a head coach or a front office and you're just like, I just want to compete, like, dude, get out of here.
Give me every single fan in my team's jersey swaying back and forth, belting out Freddie Mercury. That's the only thing that we want, Brian. As a Bills fan, I'm starved for that. So if the Jets can even just get a smidge closer, it's worth it. It's worth the risk. You've been the biggest proponent of that on this show, saying that you think Rodgers makes them instant threats to at least contend for an AFC championship game. The jury's out for me as far as whether or not that's true, but today that's true. Today that's true because the pot of gold is going to be in Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, and the true winner of this, in my opinion, is Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is a stud. I think Garrett Wilson has the talent to be a top 5 receiver in the NFL. I don't think he's had the opportunity.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you, myself. Given the fact that Garrett Wilson
always nice to get affirmation from your own self. Yes.
Garrett Wilson hasn't even had a top 20 quarterback. Garrett Wilson would have a top 5 quarterback if we get Rodgers in New York. And the Demon said it himself, the media, the courting, the king, the crown. Oh my goodness. It's such a beautiful vision to have, seeing Aaron Rodgers back on top, talking about underdogs. No, I'm just kidding. Aaron Rodgers has never been an underdog in his life, but
in his mind, he would think differently. He
right?
thinks he's a perpetual
He'd tell you
underdog.
otherwise.
And I absolutely love that. That's one of the things I love about Rodgers, that manufactured chip on his shoulder that keeps him going. I think Breece Hall, Aaron Rodgers, I think that Garrett Wilson, I think that instantly becomes one of the best offensive trios in the league. They're ascending. If Demon's right and they can hold on to their firsts, watch out for the Jets come next February.
All right.
Virtual mic drop for those just listening.
So
it would have been better if you had an actual mic prop and then dropped it and you could hear that awkwardness.
Let me address 2 points here. So let me take you both on the emotional roller coaster that was these last couple of weeks for Packers fans, right? And I'm going to talk about my own personal experience here. So I'm going to digress for a second. I play a game called it's called Retro Bowl. It's a little 8-bit NFL game on mobile.
Love Retro Bowl.
Yeah, right. So I play it when I'm on my way to work or on the train, things like that. Now, Retro Bowl.
I won like 7 Super Bowls with the Dolphins on Retro Bowl. Just saying.
That sounds like fun.
It's such a fun little time waster. But they're not paying us for this, by the way. So if you want to pay us Retro Bowl,
hey, Retro Bowl, we'll take your sponsorship. Just send us, I don't know, free content or something.
Let's get it.
So speaking of free and not free, Retro Bowl has a pro version that's $1.49 to buy and allows you to rename players. Now, I don't have this version. At certain
Didn't want to
points,
spend the $1.49.
Wait for it. Wait, but I hear, because I don't play it that often. But this week at the point where I was refreshing Twitter, and there's nothing happening. He's not giving us. And then he put whether he gave Rasul Douglas his phone or not. He'd gone radio silence, but there was a tweet that came out from him, and I bought that version. This is the lowest of pity that I got, because I bought that version just so I could name my quarterback Jordan Love. Right, that's down here. But then I watch Aaron Rodgers and I watched the full Pat McAfee show, and I have to admit, and I said to you, Brian, like, it was really weird to see. And then I saw a Twitter picture where he was in the Jets uniform, and I like to think that football can absolutely affect my deck, and a good win can make it better, a bad win can make it worse. But I'd like to think I don't get overly affected day to day. I can kind of keep that to the game, right?
Good for you.
But,
okay.
Yeah, just flexing.
Can't say the same. No.
And so I saw that, and I got sad, and I went back and I looked at some of those highlights, and I remember the highs of those Hail Marys. And if you think I'm rambling and all over the road here, that is very intentional, because that is the Aaron Rodgers experience. So if you are the Packers, you've gotten rid of Aaron, or you're getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. That sucks. He's a super, super, super talented player. And, my best friend is a Patriots fan, and I've had the argument of Brady versus Rodgers a million times. I don't
know if there's much of an argument. No, it's one dude has 7 rings, one dude has 1.
I am going to throw my microphone. No, I mean, what the argument of the most talented player, highest QBR rating of all time, whatever, no big deal.
Okay.
But
Rodgers' talent, I'll
undeniable, right?
Yeah.
So I accept that the Jets are getting Aaron Rodgers, the talented football player, but you're inheriting everything that comes with it, and that comes with the locker room. I mean, I know there's talk of him. He talked up Jordan Love, but when he first got there, he brings this weight with him that they've already signed Alan Lazard. There was reports that the Jets were interested in Randall Cobb. Cobb, like what? Like you've
Mercedes
got
Lewis, even OBJ. Just say,
Well, like Mercedes Lewis, who I also love, but needs a walker to get to the locker. Like
Isn't he like
please,
50,
man.
57 at this
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think even if you keep your first round pick, which I think they will, I don't think we'll get a first. You're clearing out now. We take a bit of a dead hit cap money. I keep saying I've got to be more objective out. The Packers take a bit of a dead cap money hit. Which sucks, but you're getting him out of the building. You've got this fresh face who's been building up behind him. They love Jordan Love. And I know we didn't see a whole lot, but what we did see last year was certainly a step forward. So you got to remember Aaron Rodgers in the off seasons or through some of the OTAs, Jordan Love was playing with the first team because Aaron Rodgers wasn't there for some of the practices. So, or some of the earlier off season parts. So you've got a prospect that you believe in, you're getting rid of some cap money, you're getting some draft capital back for it. And most of all, which I can't believe I'm saying this about Aaron Rodgers, whose signed ball I have sitting behind me by Aaron Rodgers, is you're just getting rid of that exhaustion of just back. It's been 3 seasons for us now and we're sick of it. So enjoy New York Jets, who already cop it. And to that point about the Rams, the Rams kind of mortgaging their future for a Super Bowl, I agree, but it only pays off if they get the Super Bowl. And I mean, the Jets are historically not an office where their risks pay off. Can we all agree on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jets fans would dispute that one right there.
And that's me.
Love it.
And we've seen what the Rams have dealt with since, and they got the title. Look at that. I think they would tell you they would do it all over again. But what if this doesn't work out? And yes, we need to know the compensation. I don't think it's going to be insane. Here's my thoughts on it. I'm going to award pots of gold to both your teams.
Sweet.
That's your
what I'm
teams.
talking
Like
about.
Kevin, you're not a Jets fan, but the team you represented in this.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even diplomatic because I do think this is a win for both teams, assuming that Rodgers doesn't fall off a cliff physically next year, which I don't think he will. His issues this year, I don't think was that he lost anything in his arm or that he lost anything in his ability to compete. I just think he was checked out. Like there's him and Brady, these great quarterbacks that rely on their competitive edge. Rodgers just also happens to have amazing physical traits. Brady never had amazing physical traits, but his competitive edge was insane. The second that went down with the Bucs, he didn't look physically done, but mentally he just wasn't that 100% like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I must win at all costs. Well, I think Rodgers is right back to 100%. I must prove everyone wrong and win at all costs. I think that's what I took the most out of the McAfee interview, is that he is scorched earth Rodgers, and this is a guy who wins MVPs when he goes scorched earth. He won 2 years in a row after the Jordan Love situation. That's how motivated he was. Motivation came down, goes to New York, and I think he's going to go scorched earth. It may only be a year. Maybe then he falls off physically, but I'm not happy he's coming to the AFC East. I'm happy for content and for as somebody who runs an NFL media company, but as a Dolphins fan, I guess I'm just happy the Patriots are going to be in last. But as for the Packers, you have to know what you have in the guy that you drafted in the first round, which set Rodgers on that scorched earth path. Going into his 4th season, you have to pick up his 5th-year option. You haven't given him a proper chance to see if he can be that guy. It had to be this year. How are you going to pick up his 5th-year option, which the deadline is May? So let's say Rodgers is still there. You're going to pick up a 5th-year option on a guy who you've seen play in, 2 regular season games? That just is not... You had to move on this year. So it's a win for the Packers because they really need to see what they have in Jordan Love. And I do agree with Adrian that he showed some signs last year and very limited sample size that, okay, this guy could be somebody who could really help Green Bay compete. And the Jets, if they just get 1 year of scorched earth Rodgers, he could win the MVP and be competing for Super Bowl. So that's why I'm not a diplomatic. I will usually pick a winner or loser, but in this situation, I think both organizations are getting the best here. And as I mentioned at the start, they also don't have leverage. So why is this deal not done? We're going to close on that. Why is this deal not just done? Let's all move on.
It's so frustrating.
I'm expecting an answer from you guys. Give me answers. Why is this still not done?
I think if I were to guess, I would say the Packers are probably penny pinching a little bit. I would say they're probably going for the Jets' pockets, which I don't blame them because, it's their quarterback. It's their dead cap hit, as Adrian pointed out.
But the Jets know, especially now because Rodgers just called them out, that Rodgers isn't going back to Green Bay. That's what I mentioned. Neither team really has leverage.
Yeah.
So the Packers might be trying to get all they can.
That's my best guess.
What other choice do they have too? Just both of you guys come to the table, get it done, and let's all move on with our lives.
Literally. Yeah.
We need this story going, right? But I think the what gets lost in this, if Rodgers, he's not coming back, so he's either at the Jets or he's retiring. What gets lost is if he retires and they split the dead cap hit over 2 years, it actually hurts us a little less this year, right? So I think Goody, or Gutekunst, however you want to pronounce his name, right, I think he's playing hardball. I think he's trying to get whatever he can, and they can afford to wait. I can't remember the situation, but they can wait right up to after the draft, really, if they wanted to. They shouldn't, but they can. Whereas the Jets kind of have no option. Like, who do they go after this? If this doesn't work, they have to chase Lamar.
Yeah, which means they guaranteed to give 2 first-round picks.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not, like I said, neither team has as much leverage as a team normally would in one of these scenarios. But I just, for our sakes, I just want it to be done. Let's find out the compensation. Let's make it official, and then let's all focus on what happens with Lamar next. Which is, we haven't seen any news on that. No, we're not going to get into it. We're not going to get into it because we're already over an hour. But I just wanted to mention that. Any last thoughts, guys, at our St. Paddy's Day edition before we wrap up the show?
Go ahead, Adrian.
No, please.
I'm having a blast doing this. This was so fun. I love the themes. You know, I love that we're diving into these themes. Looking forward to continuing to do that. I will say, if I were being genuine, I think the pot of gold goes to the Packers because they're moving on from this. They're probably going to get a haul.
I think that's the Bills fans speaking.
Probably. No, I've said it a lot. I don't know if Rodgers is the Rodgers. I don't know if he's going to be exactly the guy that we think he can be, to be completely honest with you. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to track.
I don't bet
against
against Scorched Earth Rodgers. I
That's
know
fair.
that.
I've been burned by Scorched Earth Rodgers before. I've bet against him. Trust me. I used to do the same thing with Brady. But the cliff does come. It does. I swear. I don't know if it's this year, but it'll be interesting to watch.
So he's 39. Brady made it to 45. He's the same age as Favre when this all happened. And Favre, people don't remember, actually played great for the Jets before he got injured, and then went to Minnesota and played great for the Vikings. Got him in the NFC Championship game. I still think there's something left in the tank for Rodgers, at least for a couple more seasons. It wouldn't completely shock me if he falls off, but I don't see that happening. I see him going on a revenge tour and just like Garrett Wilson, absolutely big beneficiary. I think this is going to work for the Jets.
I think if I'm being genuine as well, it's super sad to see him leave. But I think you're right where both teams are winning here. I think both teams are kind of going to get what they want. The only fear I have for the Jets, and I'm a sneaky Jets fan. I do love the Jets. Sorry, AFC East guys, but
I don't hate the Jets or the Bills. I just hate the Patriots. So
nice.
I'm with you on that as well.
I hate them all, to be honest, but I'm sorry.
What's success for the Jets here? Is it the Super Bowl only? Because if they get to the AFC or if they get the AFC Championship and lose, is it worth all the Rodgers deal? Because he's probably not. He's either coming back the following year and he really will have fallen off a cliff, I think. Like, what is success for the Jets here? It's kind of Super Bowl or bust, and I just don't know.
See,
Rodgers had good pieces too.
Yeah, I'm in similar agreement with you. But Brian actually said on the show that he thinks just a trip to the championship game would be enough for the fan base to be reignited and just rebuy in.
Maybe even competing for the AFC East throughout most of this. This is just something they were
to give
in
them
first
cheer.
place for like a week this year at like 7-4, and the Jets fans were going
They
nuts.
lost their mind.
I don't know if Armand's still in the chat. We can hear directly from a Jets fan, so let us know, Armand. What would you see as success this year? But I just think this is a team that's been so starved for any type of success. Bills fans, Packers fans, you guys don't know what that feels like because yes, the Packers have only won one Super Bowl, but they won the NFC Championship game 2 years in a row. They were dominating the NFC North. The Bills have been dominating the AFC East over the past few seasons. They've been spoiled. The Jets
starved.
I'm happy when the Dolphins make the playoffs as a 7th seed with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. So I feel like I have a better beat on what Jets fans are thinking, and I think that if they're competing for the AFC East, if they have to at least make the playoffs. Hey, Slasher, what's up in the chat?
What up, Slasher?
Pop again right when we're wrapping up the show.
Yeah.
I just think if they get to a point where if they make now squeezing in at a number 7 seed, I don't think is quite going to do it. But if you're competing for the division and you have like 10 wins or more, and maybe you win a playoff game, and even if you get to just the conference championship game and lose, Jets fans are going to be ecstatic. So I think that's what you define as success. But the idea of all this, just like the Rams move, is to win a Super Bowl. So I think by 2024, there will be a level of disappointment if they aren't at least in the Super Bowl
Yeah.
in 23 or 24. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. That is our St.
Good
Paddy's
stuff.
Day edition. I love the themes, and
That's
I
fun.
love. I don't know if I mentioned this on air. I thought about getting a St. Paddy's Day theme for the graphics, and I was gonna text Anthony. I didn't. I'm like, I don't think he has time. I came on here, and he had all the green graphics.
He's the
ready.
GOAT.
Yeah. So. Thank you, Anthony, for being prepared. Armand did answer, still in the chat. For me, success would be the AFC title game. Jets Nation / social media success would be winning the Super Bowl. Thank you, Armand.
fair.
That is our regular diehard Jets fan in the chat. Thank you all who watched and listened. If this is your first time here, Slasher, we do this every Monday and Friday. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Check out the Legit Football newsletter. It's free. Kevin, thank you as always, my partner in prime. Adrian, 4 a.m. Man, what a champ.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Hopefully your clocks change soon, so when we have you back, it'll at least be 1 hour better. That's it, guys. Have a great weekend. This has been the Legit Football NFL Podcast. We'll see you on Monday.